also played a key role in organizing the free speech movement. And it's funny, isn't it, that all these decades later, with more Democrats slouching towards socialism, it takes a conservative Republican like Donald Trump to remind us what it was all about: freedom. And that's the angle. All right, joining me now to rock and roll on this topic, two people who were at President Trump's executive order signing today: Harmeet Dhillon, RNC National Committee woman from California, and Bernadette Tazy, who is a correspondent for CampusReform.com and a student at California State University. Harmeet, practically speaking, how will this proceed? Every agency and department will have a role. How will this work?
So there are 12 agencies mentioned in the executive order, and each of them is supposed to go make some regulations as to how they're going to implement this. But the big idea is that if a university does not adhere to the free speech principles that either it's promised if it's a private institution or the First Amendment requires if it's a public institution, then the funding will be reviewed and potentially pulled. And for some of these institutions, we're talking about hundreds of millions, in a couple of cases over $1 billion of federal funding from one of these 12 agencies. So it could be huge. And so this is a stick, if you will, to make sure that they comply with their promises and their obligations under the Constitution. It is being mocked by the left because they say, well, the schools should have to do this anyway. Well, they aren't doing it, which is the point. There was almost 200 students there in the room today who each had their individual story of their rights being trampled. And so it's about time. These are our taxpayer dollars. And if the schools want the federal dollars, they have to comply with the federal law.
I think this is such a great start. And this conversation, Bernadette, is so important for people in your generation to have and to see being dealt with by, frankly, a conservative. Because conservatives believe everybody should have a say. And yet all the liberals are running for cover. They don't want any part of this conversation because it exposes them. Tell us about your story.
Right. Well, a couple of years ago, I got permission from my university to chalk pro-life messages on the sidewalks.
Chalk?
Chalk. That's right.
How threatening.
And a professor came up to me and said he'd be coming back to erase them, and that's just what he did. He ended up bringing students with him to help erase those messages, as he proclaimed that college campuses are not free speech areas. And we ended up filing a lawsuit with Alliance Defending Freedom, and this was a Students for Life group back at Fresno State, and we ended up winning. This is a big win for free speech and a big win for students who are attempting to speak their views on campus. Our students now are our future legislators and judges, and this is a way for the university to step up and to be held accountable.
Oh, no. We've been doing a lot, and Harmeet, you've been helping us on this.
Sure.
To push this narrative of why repercussions are so important for bad behavior. I mean, we want people to be responsible. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody steps over the line every now and then. But when it's criminality, when it's like whether it's a racial hoax, whether it's intimidating a student and depriving you of your free speech rights, there have to be repercussions. And Alliance Defending Freedom, by the way, is a phenomenal organization. Just so the audience can see this, by the way, this is what happened when Fresno State University, when you put your pro-life messages on school sidewalks. Let's watch.
Free speech is free speech in the free speech area. It's a pretty simple concept. Okay? This does not constitute a free speech area. This is our part of free speech. Do you disagree with our part of free speech? College campuses are not free speech areas. Do you understand? Obviously, you don't understand.
Now, then this happened in April of 2018.
Hey, why are you tearing down our posters?
Go to hell.
Why are you tearing down our posters?
I love this. This is the kind of stuff we would have done at the Dartmouth Review, Harmeet, all those years ago. This is great.
Yeah, so Laura, the reason that the videos are there are because students are getting punched, students are getting assaulted, and, you know, I, as a lawyer for a lot of these students, have said you need to start documenting this because you can expect this type of violence and harassment on a lot of these campuses today. And so Bernadette had a lawyer, my clients have had a lawyer, but hey, this is going on at community college, it's going on at every level, and not everybody has a lawyer. So it's really important that President Trump turn the tables and put the burden on the schools, not on the students, to go to court and enforce their rights. And so Young America's Foundation, which helped us in the Berkeley case, and other groups on campuses have been instrumental in making sure this happens. And I'm really excited to see that now we're going to have to, you know, who in the universities is going to defend them not adhering to the First Amendment?
Well, let's look at some of the federal funding that some of the biggest schools get. Johns Hopkins gets about $2 billion a year.
Yep.
University of Washington, Seattle, 952 million. Michigan gets 829 million. Stanford, 710 million. University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, 676 million. Now, half of Johns Hopkins funding comes from the Department of Defense. They do a lot of defense research there. And the president was, I think, clear on saying this is not about tuition, going after money that would go to tuition.
That's right.
These are these special grants that they get for various reasons. And I have to ask you, Bernadette, are students on campus this reflexively liberal? Or do most of them just kind of keep to themselves and say, I don't want any problems. I just want to keep my head down, study, maybe party, have some fun, but keep my head on, study, and get out of here.
Right. It's a very hostile environment for conservative students, and it's a shame that they feel that they can't speak up. They can't speak their values, their views, because they will be shut down. And universities should be promoting free speech. And
but they say this is hyperbole. I mean, when you hear from liberals, you heard that guy when he played during the angle, he said, this is a big exaggeration. There are a few examples where people went nuts and it's terrible, but this is all you guys exaggerating this for publicity.
This is happening with university administrators and professors, in my case, that you saw. It's not just students that are attacking free speech. And so for it to come all the way from the top, this is something that we report on all the time at the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform, and it's something that's become a big problem. And like I said, we're teaching our students who are going to be our future leaders. And so this is so important to us as we are being attacked on campus that President Trump has signed this order.
All right, guys, thank you very much. And as we discussed, it was once the beacon of free speech. But now Berkeley is ground zero for shutting it down. Speech that isn't approved, which is basically conservative.